Moin, wieder herzlich willkommen. Ich bin der VoodooDE. Sprechen wir doch mal über Leonardo da Vinci, ein Multitalent jenseits alles Wissens. Es gibt dazu diverseste Experience. Ich habe mal wieder 2 ausprobiert von Norman, da ist er. Und das sind 2 Experience, die von 2019 sind und die sind leider nicht mehr ganz so gut geworden, weil es immer Teleport hat, aber schaut es euch selber an. Ich will euch einfach mal Kulturbanausen da draußen mal zeigen, was Leonardo da Vinci mit seinen Bildern und eigentlich so darstellen wollte. Bis gleich im Video.
Welcome to the Louvre. A medieval fortress turned royal palace, the Louvre became a museum in 1793. With a history spanning over 800 years, the 40,000 square meter space welcomes nearly 10 million people a year, making it the world's most visited museum. Some 35,000 artworks are displayed here, including a number of famous masterpieces. Made up of 673 glass triangles and diamonds and weighing 200 tons, the pyramid serves as the Louvre's Grand Gallery is close to 300 meters long. It houses the Italian painting collection, which includes works by Leonardo da Vinci. With 5 paintings and 22 drawings, the museum owns the world's largest collection of works by the master. St. John the Baptist, one of Leonardo's final creations. The artist painted it during his stay in France, continuing to work on it until his death in The Virgin of the Rocks, one of Leonardo's key works. This is the first time the artist would depict the Virgin Mary, Jesus and St. Captivating, isn't she? I often come here to admire her. It's hard to feel close to her with all these people around, so I usually stay back. She's incredibly popular. She continues to cause a great sensation from the safety of her glass case. Still, there are days when I can't quite see her smile. Days when she seems weighed down by her fame and stardom, the endless reinterpretations of her image and all the extravagant theories surrounding her. I'd love you to see beyond the glass, beyond the image, to see the woman inside the painting, and to show you exactly what makes the Mona Lisa a masterpiece. So much has happened since the first brushstroke was laid down in Florence in 1503. Following her stay in France, the still unfinished Mona Lisa was purchased by King Francois I and became part of the royal collection. She would later survive a revolution, theft, 2 world wars, several attacks, and journeys across the world. But Mona Lisa bears traces of her past. See this split that nearly disfigured her? The wood panel was deformed by humidity, while the painting hung in the bathroom of King Francois I. Ah, yes, this may look like a canvas painting, but it is actually oil on poplar wood. The panel's dimensions made it possible to paint a large, life-size portrait of Mona Lisa. The painting left quite an impression, but its colors have since changed. And the cracks, well, the varnish has yellowed, darkened, and cracked to the point of obscuring original details and colors. I would like to show you a different side of the Mona Lisa that I know. Lisa. Madonna Lisa del Giocondo. In 1503, Mona Lisa was only 24 years old. Already the mother of 5 children, little did she know her portrait would become the most famous painting in the world. She was called La Gioconda in reference to her husband Francesco del Giocondo, a wealthy fabric merchant from Florence. The portrait may have been intended for the couple, but it remained in the painter's possession until his death. The artist dies childless, having acted as his own king, priest, and god. And this painting is much more than a portrait. It is the crowning achievement of a lifetime. The greatest deception men suffer is from their own opinions, and Lisa has not been completely immune to unfounded speculation. I know that her virtue was often questioned due to the appearance of her hair, which was previously believed to be loose. What nonsense! A young lady of her station would never have worn her hair loose. She is wearing a cap and her hair is tied. A few loose strands frame her face. There was also talk of her being pregnant. Oh dear, that varnish makes us see things that aren't there. No need to explore what's under the paint to see that she is superbly attired. Her clothes are very refined, in keeping with her station as a wealthy lady. The main challenge here was to faithfully depict the successive layers of fabric while retaining their transparent appearance. Such a task required great skill in the rendering of light and shade. Details make perfection, and perfection is not a detail. There are several details that would have been highly significant at the time. Portraits sometimes included clues or characteristic attributes alluding to the sitter's name. For instance, the juniper branches in the portrait of Ginevra de' Benci, also painted by a certain Leonardo da Vinci. Ginepro is Italian for juniper. But Mona Lisa holds nothing in her hands, and there are no physical elements that could provide clues about her identity. Shall we look at another detail? Namely, that truly essential, characteristic part of the portrait that is her smile. The elusive smile alluding to the surname of the lady's husband, Giocondo, from the Latin jucundus, meaning happy or jovial. How could his wife, La Gioconda, do anything but smile? But Mona Lisa's smile is much more than a clue about her identity. It also conveys the intricacy of human emotion. Nearly devoid of pigments, the thin layers of oil paint, sfumato, create a light haze, making the transitions from dark to light almost imperceptible. The blurred outlines create the illusion of movement in certain areas. The greatest challenge for any painter is making an image lifelike. Along with smiles and gazes, movements and gestures can also show a state of mind. For instance, hands communicate emotions and intentions to the viewer. Watch closely now. See how Mona Lisa turns to welcome us to her loggia. One hand lightly resting on the other. This backdrop is the result of a lifetime spent studying and carefully observing nature. The artist creates the illusion of depth by progressively softening edges and varying color hues according to distance. This is the principle of atmospheric perspective. In this imaginary landscape, we can see allusions to the history and slow formation of the world, the battle of the elements, the water shaping the earth, and man's attempts to clear a way for himself. I would love to fly over this make-believe landscape, wouldn't you?
Use the teleport button to move forward into the chapel. Depending on your controller configuration, you can adjust the direction you'll be facing when you teleport, as shown by the arrow on the floor. Feel free to move around during your tour to get a better vantage point. Go ahead and try this now. We will begin shortly. You are standing in a virtual recreation of the Sistine Chapel. You have just walked through the entrance and are experiencing the work as the artist intended. This is how it was first seen by the people of Rome in December 1512. In our time, roughly 20,000 tourists a day are herded through this room, entering from a small door on the altar wall and exiting through a side door that will be installed in the 19th century. It is overwhelming. The mind reels. It's hard to focus on any one thing as you crane your neck and succumb to sensory visual overload. It was the German poet Goethe who said, "Until you have seen the Sistine Chapel, you can have no adequate conception of what one man is capable of accomplishing." Above you is over 6,000 square feet of painted fresco, largely created by one man. A man who didn't even want this job. Michelangelo Buonarroti, at age 33, was considered the greatest living sculptor after his creation of statues like the Pietà and the David. Some considered him the greatest living artist, period. One of these admirers was Pope Julius II. His uncle, Sixtus, had built this very chapel that bears his name when he was pope. At the time, the ceiling above you was covered in bright blue ultramarine paint with thousands of small gold stars. Pope Julius decided that he would add to his uncle's chapel and decorate its ceiling. He convened his Vatican artists to devise a plan. The artists, namely Donato Bramante, realized that this was going to be an extremely difficult task. He told Julius that he should award the ceiling commission to Michelangelo, the young sculptor from Florence. If he was indeed the greatest artist of our time, he would have no problem completing this commission. Unfortunately for Michelangelo, but fortunately for us, the Pope was convinced. All Bramante and his artist friends had to do was sit back and watch Michelangelo fail. Michelangelo pleaded with the Pope. He was a sculptor, not a painter. He had no experience painting fresco, but the Pope didn't care. So Michelangelo fled Rome, and the Pope sent an envoy to hunt him down and bring him back. When he refused, the ambassador said he would either decorate the Pope's ceiling or risk the invasion of Florence, his hometown. Needless to say, back then you didn't say no to the Pope. The ceiling above you took 4 years to complete, from 1508 to 1512. This includes a brief meltdown in the middle where he again fled and again was brought back under guard by armed papal soldiers. During this time, Michelangelo painted the entire ceiling you see, everything from the top of the windows up. Let me remind you, it took Leonardo 6 years to complete this, which I'm placing here at actual size. Seriously. Michelangelo was originally commissioned to paint the 12 apostles over the windows, and some elaborate geometric designs above their heads filling the vault. This was a Herculean task, not just painting a huge curved vault 70 feet off the ground, but dealing with ever-changing sightlines that, from the floor, presented almost impossible problems of perspective and foreshortening. Michelangelo was not one to be intimidated by difficulties. He preferred them, sought them out, at times even created them. He told the Pope that the existing plan was boring, and he would come up with something new. If he was going to do something, he was going to own it. So here's this young guy who doesn't want the job, who isn't trained to do the job, but reluctantly accepts the commission and then decides to completely alter it to an unheard of level of ambition never before seen, not even in antiquity. So Michelangelo decides that the chapel as it exists now, with its Quattrocento frescoes on the walls depicting the lives of Moses and Christ, what is missing is everything that came before. He will literally paint biblical Genesis surrounded by the Old Testament prophets and pagan Greek symbols who foretold the coming of Christ. In the four corners, he will depict Old Testament Jewish heroes overcoming their enemies. He painted over 300 figures encased in this fictional painted architectural scheme, the first of its kind, that serves to unify and harmonize everything into a single coherent cosmic whole. Unsure of himself, Michelangelo had assembled a team of experts to help him. He started right above where you entered the chapel, painting the Great Flood and the prophet Zechariah. After having painted Zechariah, which is believed to be a portrait of Pope Julius himself, the Pope was very pleased. He said it was a superb work and that Michelangelo could decorate the rest of the chapel in any manner he wished, effectively silencing disgruntled papal scholars alarmed at his plan to decorate their most holy chapel with pagan images. The Vatican artists, upon seeing this portrait, ridiculed Michelangelo, saying that he did not know foreshortening or perspective, that he was essentially a fool. I'd like you to take a minute to look down the room at Jonah, who caps the other end of this vault. He leans backwards in his throne, but the vault is actually curving forwards. He stretches his legs out into the real space of the chapel. He and Haman to his left are two of the most virtuoso examples of foreshortening in the history of art. But let's get back to the flood. The scaffold had been disassembled, and viewing it from the ground for the first time, Michelangelo was very disappointed. Here, he had hired the best fresco painters in Italy, and under their guidance, he had created figures that were hardly discernible from the floor. He started to doubt himself. Perhaps Bramante and the others were right. Never one to waste energy on confrontation, though, he arrived the next morning and locked everyone out. Save for a few Florentine friends to aid him with preparations, he would do the rest himself, and the doors would remain locked. You'll notice that from here down the vault, the figures become larger. They all exist in 3 dimensions, as though they are occupying space amid the marble architecture. This is a sculptor painting. There are no lush environments or backgrounds, no incidental details whatsoever. These are massive giants, looming figures that demand our attention as individuals. Let's go over the central flattened section of the vault. What's depicted are the first 9 verses of Genesis, starting at the altar wall with God separating light from darkness and ending above you with the drunkenness of Noah. This is the biblical narrative, painted in reverse order, from sin to salvation. You have the fall of Noah, and you follow this back across 3 organized groups, portraying Adam and Eve and God creating the earth. Remember, the guy hesitant to paint 12 apostles has now decided to depict the creation of the entire universe. Notice this large marble fence erected on the floor, the transept. It was meant to divide members of the Vatican from the visiting faithful. If you look up, see how this feature divides the biblical narrative. God is only portrayed on the liturgical or Vatican side and does not cross over into the lay area of the room to mingle with us common folk. Flanking the biblical histories are the giants we spoke of, the Old Testament prophets and pagan sibyls who foretold the coming of Christ. They are superhumans that exist on a plane between God and the lower figures surrounding them. Those figures, in the triangular spandrels and rainbow-shaped lunettes above each window, are the ancestors of Christ. These are some of the most profoundly human images ever painted. This concludes our brief orientation. Now that you have your bearings, the trigger on the control in your hand will allow you to inspect figures and elements on the ceiling. When one is highlighted, press the trigger to start or stop hearing information about that selected item. You can move freely around the floor of the chapel, or select the aerial work platform in the corner to hop in and take a closer look like a Vatican conservator. To learn more about the creation of the Sistine ceiling, select the wooden scaffold in the opposite corner. We hope you enjoy this experience as much as we enjoyed making it. "25 years after completing the ceiling, Michelangelo did paint this entire altar wall, the Last Judgment. He was a 67-year-old man, and many of his contemporaries, including Julius, had passed. It shows Judgment Day as Christ the Redeemer casts the souls to hell and elevates the saved to heaven. The focus of this experience was on the ceiling, and it'd be a fool's errand to attempt to cover the altar wall at the same time. To explore The Last Judgment in detail, please download the experience when it's publicly available. Click on the altar wall once more to hear one of my favorite brief descriptions of The Last Judgment from renowned art historian Romain Rolland. These Quattrocento frescoes were painted when Michelangelo was a young boy, completed by some of the most famous early Renaissance artists in Italy. As I mentioned before, they depict the life of Moses and Christ and existed here when he began the ceiling project. Michelangelo put a lot of thought into how his work above would tell the tale of everything that came before. This experience isn't really about these frescoes on the walls, but if you click them, I'll tell you the title of the piece and the artist who created it. This is The Journey of Moses in Egypt by Perugino.
So, warte mal. Ja, gut, ich muss ehrlich zugeben, man kriegt hier Nackenstarre, wenn man sich das hier anguckt. Ich hätte es lieber gehabt, okay, wenn man die Hallen hier besucht, ja, dass man sich das hier angucken kann, aber vielleicht die einzelnen Gebäude, Gemälde vielleicht nochmal genauer anschauen. Aber so ist es echt, als ob man durch ein Museum geht und der Erzähler ungefähr so, so spannend ist wie, keine Ahnung, wie ein Brezelverkäufer oder so. Ja, also, technisch nicht schön umgesetzt. Gut, Musik jetzt wird hier reingestreut. Es ist, und der stützt leider keine deutsche Sprachausgabe, also von da aus kann ich das jetzt nicht so unbedingt als für jemanden, der sich für Michelangelos Bilder interessiert. Das ist wie eine Führung, durch ein Museum und kann ich hier nochmal drauf zeigen.
This is the Events in the Life of Moses by Sandro Botticelli.
Ja, und das ist es so im Großen und Ganzen. Also allein schon immer warum immer dieses verkackte Teleport? Also da ist das Snap-Turn schon fast besser, aber so, komme ich dann hier auch wieder raus? Falls ja, bye bye, bis zum nächsten Mal, tschüss.
Sunny day when the flowers passed away and the beasts that I meet, they never believe that the sun has made them weep.